What's up, guys? Today we're going to be working on something a little bit different from what I normally do here on the channel. Normally I'm doing stuff on my 240, working on it, building it, driving it at the track, and that's a lot of fun, and I'm going to keep doing that. And I've had this other idea that I've kind of wanted to bring to fruition for a while, and I finally decided to just do it. And for that project, I'm going to be building a drift car for $2,000. I feel like a lot of people who want to get into drifting or are new to it think that they need to spend a bunch of money to go drift and have fun, and that's not true. I think a lot of people on social media build these like crazy high horsepower engine swapped, super awesome drift cars, which are super cool and awesome, and I'm gonna definitely have a bunch of stupid drift cars one day. But I feel like a lot of people see that and they think they need to do that if they just want to get started in drifting, and that's just not true. So I kind of had this concept for a while. My goal is to build a drift car for $2,000. I think all in $2,000 is a great place to be at for a drift car. That is still a lot of money. But even compared to like what an SR20 costs, which I think if you go on to like some import website, they're gonna try and charge you over $4,000 for an SR20. Like a 2-liter engine from the 90s that makes 200 horsepower is gonna cost you $4,000. So I think $2,000 in the grand scheme of things is a pretty good sum to build a drift car. Now, when I was looking for a car to build, I was looking at a few different chassis. I was looking at 350Zs, G35s, and then a bunch of different BMWs. I was looking at the E90 3 Series, E46 3 Series, and then the E39 5 Series. They were all good platforms, I felt, for like a starter drift car. Cheap, manual, rear-wheel drive. And they were all looking at cars that were in the market of $1,500 to $2,000. And my idea was to get the car, sell some parts off of it that we won't need, and then use that money to fund the drift build. So after a little bit of searching, I found a vehicle that looked good. I purchased it from an insurance salvage auction, and that is an Infiniti G35. So here is the car that I decided to purchase. This is a 2004 Infiniti G35 sedan that is a salvage title. That does mean we won't be able to drive to drift events, but for me, I wasn't really planning on registering the car ever, so this is a great base for me. I paid $1,883 for this car after everything was said and done, and when I bought it, it did say it was running and driving. However, yesterday when I picked it up and I tried to pull it off the trailer, it definitely didn't run and drive. They put it on the trailer with a forklift, so I didn't really know. It kind of starts, but we definitely have a little work to do to get it to a good place. It's mostly in pretty okay shape. This is the damage that totaled the car. You can tell it did like crunch in the quarter panel, which this whole thing is one piece. So a new one would have been welded in, crunch the bumper, and then this. I don't know, it doesn't seem too bad. The car, it doesn't really affect the drivability. So when I was bidding on the car, I didn't really know what the condition was gonna be on it, besides the fact that it ran and drive and looked somewhat put together. It looked a little bit low, so I wasn't sure, maybe it was on lowering spring coilovers. Turns out it is on coilovers, which is awesome. I was planning for this build to just get a set of super cheap coilovers on Facebook for like 150 bucks. So we're not gonna have to spend that 150 bucks, which is awesome. One of my other big plans was to sell the cats out of the car. Since it's not gonna be a street car and it won't need emissions, that will free up a bunch of money to buy other parts with. And it does look like it has catalytic converters. It also looks like it has some sort of like custom exhaust system. So if we remove the cats, it's probably gonna be pretty loud. We might have to get another muffler put in somewhere else to keep it kind of quiet, because no one wants to be the guy with a straight piped VQ at a drift event. I was that guy for 2 drift events, and trust me, it's not who you want to be. So once we get the car all sorted out, I don't have too crazy of plans with it. I want to get the suspension dialed in. I want to be able to dial in the alignments. We're going to do some rear adjustable arms. I'm going to do a basic angle kit. This is just because we're building something that looks a little more like a drift car. If you are building your first drift car, you definitely don't need an angle kit. I think you become a better driver if you learn to drift without an angle kit. It teaches you more car control, and you're not able to save yourself when you make a mistake as easily. But I think it will be good to put an angle kit in this car, so we can be all in on a drift build and see where we're at. We're also going to be installing a bucket seat so we can make sure we're held in place. We're gonna be doing a welded diff, because it does have an open diff right now, and we're also gonna be making sure the handbrake can lock up the rear tires. I'd like to retain the stock handbrake, because that's the most cost-effective solution. However, if we really can't get it to work through adjustment and replacing parts that are cheap, we might go over to a hydraulic handbrake. Aside from that, if we're able to have some extra money when we're left over, maybe through selling the current wheels or other parts off the car, I would love to get some different wheels, because I feel like a set of cool wheels really finishes off a car really nicely and kind of makes you that much happier with it. So then the idea at the end of the build would be to bring it to a drift event and shake it down and see how our $2,000 drift car is. So the plan today is to get the car running properly, pull the catalytic converters off of it so we can sell those, as well as removing the diff so we can go ahead and get that thing welded. Got the fresh battery in. We'll worry about the tie down later, that if we can actually get the car to run properly. So I just pulled off the oil drain plug and the oil filter, and there was not that much oil in this car. Definitely not. I think these things take like 5 quarts or something, and there definitely wasn't 5 quarts of oil in there, which isn't ideal, I guess. But on the other hand, when I did crank it over a few times, it didn't sound like it was raw enough. And when the oil came out, there was no coolant in it, and it didn't look really metallic-y. So we're good, I think, so far. And this thing does have 220,000 miles. It's not brand new, but looks like it might have been well taken care of. So we're getting that car firing up and then just kind of dying. So we figured out the reason the car wouldn't start was because this vacuum line was unconnected for the brake booster. So here she is, purring in all her glory, and just nothing. So the powering and steering in the car was not working at all. I went ahead, checked out a bunch of stuff, and I figured out the only time the power steering kind of works is if I rev it to like 3,000 RPM, and then if I turn the steering wheel, the power steering pump whines and it kind of works. So it definitely needs a new pump, so I'm gonna go ahead and order one of those right now. Fortunately, that is gonna come out of our budget for drift parts, but we definitely need power steering if we wanna go drifting in the car. So it's pretty good. If this is the only issue we have with getting the car working properly, I can't really complain. So we're gonna go ahead and order that. We're still gonna get started working on the rest of the car. Now we're gonna get started on what I think is gonna be the most difficult part of this entire process, and that's gonna be pulling the diff out to get it welded and removing the cats. I just jacked the car up as I was gonna get ready to pull the diff out, and I noticed that this wheel, despite the fact that it is pretty much ruined, there's a bit of play. So it looks like we do have a bad wheel bearing in the back. Then on the driver's side, there's no play in this one, so probably just gonna replace this wheel bearing. Shouldn't be too difficult at all to throw a new one in, but we're gonna do that later. We're still gonna pull the diff out right now. So when I went over here to look at the diff, it looks like both of the axle boots are completely torn. That's not ideal. That's probably gonna lead to a failure sooner rather than later. So I'm gonna be looking for a set of used axles. So I was just able to pull the diff out. We're now gonna go ahead and move it out from under the car, drain the fluid out of it. So when we go drop it off to get welded, it is all ready to go. I'm now gonna go ahead and pull both catalytic converters off the car. This is not gonna be too much fun and probably the most inconvenient thing to do on this entire project, but hopefully I'm gonna get it done pretty quickly, and it'll be some nice money in our pocket to go get some drift parts for this thing. So I was able to rip out both catalytic converters. And I'm talking to a few different people, see how much we can get for them, and then we will go from there. So I just went ahead and removed the axles, and as you can see, they are absolutely destroyed, both of them. This one also has a tear on this side of the boot. So we are sadly gonna have to use some of our budget to replace the axles, but if that's the worst of it, then I'm not too worried. So this seems like as good of a time as any to address the damage to the rear end of the car. It looks like I did crinkle the quarter panel quite a bit. And did destroy the bumper. So we're gonna go ahead and rip the bumper off and then see how much this quarter panel and of the rear end right there we can push back out with like a piece of 2x4 and a hammer, and we're probably gonna call it a day at that, because at the end of the day this thing is gonna be a drift car. It's only gonna see the track, and we're trying to keep the budget as low as possible. So new rear bumper is probably not in the budget, but we'll see what happens. So we do have a bit of caving here, just comparing that to this side. I'm just gonna start going at it. So we got a hammer and a 2x4. So we were able to make use of the hammer and 2x4 to really move this area out. We might be able to get it out a little bit more, but I don't know, we might have to like drill some holes and pull something in so we can kind of pull it out, because the hammer kind of is just moving everything, and we don't want to really move everything how it's moving anymore. But definitely looking a lot better than it did before, and the rear bumper wasn't in that bad of shape, so we might be able to throw it back on there if we change the shape of it a little bit. As for right now, we are unfortunately gonna have to pull some more parts off the car and sell them, so we do need some money to buy some other parts. This car does have the factory wing on it, so we are gonna be pulling this thing off to sell it. So coming over to the front of the car, it's not the prettiest scene, but we are gonna try and sell the headlights. I'm gonna go ahead and polish them to clean them up a little bit. I'm gonna try and sell the front bumper, and I'm also gonna try and sell this grill right here. I wish we could keep them. However, at the end of the day, we are building a car that's really gonna only get driven on the track, and we're trying to make it $2,000 as our budget. If we wanted to have the budget be $2,500, we could leave a lot of these cosmetic things on the car. However, budget's $2K, we're gonna try and stay below that. And unfortunately, headlights and a front bumper and grill aren't really doing anything for us in terms of building a solid baseline starter drift car, so they gotta go. So this episode, we were able to get the car, take a look at it, figure out everything that was wrong with it, and address that, and we're gonna be able to fix them in the next episode. We also went ahead and removed the catalytic converters so we could get those sold, as well as the differential so we can get that welded. So I decided for this build, we're not really gonna be counting the cost of consumables, because I feel like that's more of an expense of running the car, and I'd say consumables like tires when we're drifting, motor oil, that sort of thing. I don't think it's gonna encompass too many things, but just kind of wanted to put that out there, as I am keeping track of it, but I'm not really gonna include that in the total cost of the build. So next episode, we're gonna be able to install all of our new parts, that being our new axles, wheel bearing, and power steering pump. We're also gonna go ahead and install our cat delete pipe since we sold the catalytic converters. We are also going to be installing our welded diff, our rear adjustable suspension arms, and our angle kit. The next episode is gonna be coming out the exact same time as this episode, next Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you guys did enjoy this video and you're looking forward to the next one, let me know, and I'll see you guys in the next one.